saw you standing there. I fell off my chair when you moved your mouth to speak. I felt the blood go to my cheek. Now it took time for me to know what you're trying so not to show. Something in my soul just cried. I see the want in your blue eyes. Baby, I would love you to want you the way that I want you, the way that it should be. Baby, you would love me to want you the way that I want you, if you only let it be. So Ravi, that was fantastic, yeah?
Thanks, Thomas.
Well, friends, this song by Lobo is one of the favorites of my guest for today, Ravi, and also a favorite of mine since my college days. It's sort of an evergreen song. So Ravi is the CEO and co-founder at Zeeve, which is a blockchain infrastructure as a service platform. And we are here to talk about a very interesting topic, and of relevance to a lot of SaaS founders, because it's really about what does it take for a SaaS startup to grow exponentially in a market that is full of innovation, rapidly growing, and the environment changing dramatically and perhaps even volatile, right? So Ravi, my thought is that perhaps in this environment, you either grow exponentially or you struggle.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Great. So Ravi, we've got lots to talk about. So let's take a seat and let's continue with our conversation.
Sure, Thomas.
Yeah. So Ravi, I was reading a report by McKinsey on blockchain, and they were saying that by the year 2027, 10% of the world's GDP will be driven by transactions on the blockchain. Now that's really amazing, right? I mean, from what we've seen over the last few years. So there's a lot of reality around blockchain that we're going to see in the future, and we've seen a lot of hype as well in the past. But I know you've been in the space for many years. You've done a lot of consulting and built use cases, and now you've built a platform. So how are you seeing the blockchain space evolve? How have you seen it evolve in the last 12 months?
Yeah, so blockchain, I think, has finally, we are seeing more of an inflection point. Because if you see last 4 or 5 years, people were trying out, and that happens with any new emerging tech, that people first try to see what kind of use cases can work, how it can bring some innovations within our industry or our organization or our geography. And that's what happened with blockchain also. People did a lot of POCs, pilots, but now we have come to a point that some of the established use cases have come in. One, as far as improving efficiency, bringing more trust and transparency, there are few established use cases like supply chain traceability, etc., specifically in the enterprise space. But then at the same time, with real world asset tokenization, with DeFi coming into picture, the whole space has now been disrupted because asset management touches upon pretty much all the industries.
Right.
So these are now some of the use cases which everyone knows that yes, they are very clear. There is a clear value proposition.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of how we can apply within our organization. So what we have seen in the last 12 months is that there has been a sudden surge of adoption among the enterprises.
Yeah.
And at the same time, a lot of developers are coming from Web 2 to Web 3.
Yeah.
And there are quite a few startups who are helping and consulting Web 2 organizations to come into the Web 3.
Right. Okay. So that's really interesting. So I'll be, I think it'll also be great, Ravi, if you can also touch upon what Zeeve does. We know it's a blockchain infrastructure as a service platform, but perhaps you could expound a little more on the value proposition of Zeeve.
Right. So Zeeve is a blockchain infrastructure as a service platform. So now, in the case of Web 2, there are software systems, there are application systems, and there are a lot of dev tools and infrastructure tools. And that helps developers build faster, go to market faster. The same kind of tools are required in Web 3. Now, Web 3 being a decentralized technology, there's a decentralized ledger, there is larger networks spread across geographies. And then there is a enterprise coming into the blockchain space that require compliances, regulations, etc. So managing such a distributed and decentralized infrastructure is pretty complex.
Yeah.
And so we require next generation of tools, dev tools and the infrastructure tools to help developers build on Web3.
Right.
That is what Zeeve does. We provide, we remove all the complexity of managing blockchain infrastructure.
Yeah.
And we help developers, utilize these tools, services, value-added services to use within their app to connect with different blockchains.
Yeah.
And we are uniquely positioned in the sense that we support multiple protocols. We support all the public protocols, we support permissioned and the enterprise protocols.
Yeah.
So we cover the full gamut of infrastructure requirement for different kind of developers.
Sure.
And it has been shown, a testament is that we have crossed 25,000 developers on our platform,
Yeah.
Including Web3 startups last week.
Yeah.
And we have 30 plus large enterprises who is using our platform to
Right.
get into blockchain.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's interesting. And we also spoke about the evolution of blockchain, right? And I recollect 5 years ago, I think even from your perspective, there were a lot of POCs being done, a lot of pilots being done. And perhaps very few actually moved into production because people were still in an experimentation phase. But interestingly, even when we had a conversation recently with a business leader at one of the major IT services companies, he did talk about how in the last 24 months, a lot of these POCs have actually gone into a production phase. And I'm sure many of them will be hugely successful. And some will struggle because there are a lot of challenges around it as well. And you also spoke about a lot of protocols coming in, and today perhaps there are 150 plus protocols, right?
Right.
And maybe 2 or 3 coming out every month. So the business is fairly complex, and there could be a lot of challenges. So it'll be great to understand, what are some challenges that you've seen in the last, let's say, 12 to 24 months, and how have you really dealt with it?
Yes, one, you rightly said that there are quite a few protocols which are coming in. Everyone is trying to create their space. So our strategy is and we have faced challenges, forging these partnerships, maturing partnerships, continue to navigate and innovate within the space. So there's a lot of know-how that you need to continue to read, listen, absorb, understand, and then try to implement that. Second, also there's a huge amount of evangelizing which is required. Still, people who are coming from Web 2 to Web 3, they don't know where to start. So even we are helping developers where to start. When they first start their blockchain journey. So we want Zeeve to be at the forefront of people who are starting their blockchain journey, and then continue to spread across different geographies because we are a global platform. But at the same time, when we talk about enterprise segment, we do require some local presence. We do require local handholding. So we are trying to spread in strategic places and see how we can cater to more and more customers.
Right. So I want to now move on to another interesting area and actually draw a parallel with what's happening in the cloud space, right? I mean, in the cloud space, there have been 3 or 4 dominant players like AWS and Azure and Google Cloud and a couple of others who probably have about 70% of the market share. Now, post-COVID, there's been a lot of digital transformation. There's been a lot of move to the cloud, right? That's been there's been a big momentum. And in the bargain, there are hordes and hordes of new cloud players, right? So the market is getting overcrowded, overheated. There's a long tail, but everyone seems to be doing well because there's a lot of demand. Now, I can also see a similar parallel here in the blockchain infrastructure space, where perhaps we are getting into a red ocean kind of a scenario. At the last count, I was reading an article by Compare Nodes, and they spoke about 80 node players in the market. At least now you have some benchmarking with platforms of that kind, which really tells you how you could decide on a node. But given this, what's happening, and I think there's huge demand because the market is growing, so there is enough business for everybody. But how do you see Zeeve, let's say, evolving in the next 12 months to really strengthen its value proposition and therefore become a game changer as well?
Right. So you're absolutely right. Infrastructure has become a hot space. There are quite a few startups who are getting into it. But there are two distinct pieces within the infrastructure space. So one is what we call as a do-it-yourself. Which is like fairly simple, providing shared APIs or providing full nodes. That's a do-it-yourself kind of business. So there, the whole idea is that yes, it will be more of a red ocean. And the strategy is again to bring in no-code automation, bring in low cost, a cost leadership kind of approach. So that is what we are doing. We have been very competitive in terms of cost, because in turn we have innovated a lot within our own platform, infrastructure, organization, to bring in that cost advantage to the customers. And at the same time, we have brought in 100% automation to all this do-it-yourself kind of business, so that when it scales, it doesn't put any extra strain on the platform. There's no additional cost of doing business. In fact, the cost of doing business will continue to decrease. The second is, but yes, blockchain is still a new technology. Still, it is maturing. It's not mature as of now. There are new protocols happening. We are not seeing any consolidation. In fact, we are seeing newer protocols coming every month. So the way we see it is, there's a lot of innovation scope. When we talk about privacy or security, enterprises are still struggling with compliances. How to manage data across different nodes, residing in different geographies. Because they were struggling to put in data within the country itself, but when we talk about cross country, it becomes even more difficult. So infrastructure also needs to support that. So there's a huge scope of innovation within the infrastructure space that we are working on. We are working on privacy, we are working on compliances, and we see that there's always going to be a massive scope to innovate something new, like trusted compute, etc. So yes, we still believe that there's a lot more to be done at the infra level, and we are very well poised and placed, because we started with our journey with blockchain development, so we understand protocols, we understand smart contracts, we understand the overall pace and how the space is building.
Yeah, I think, so I want to now touch upon another very interesting area, which is, you have so many protocols, you have several cloud providers, and in a way, many of them you would need to partner with them, right, to really expand the market. Now, there is every possibility that some of these players will also start building some infrastructure components. Now, it may not be complete, but maybe they will start creeping into the infrastructure space as far as blockchain is concerned. And therefore, are we now moving into a world where there will be collaboration to a large extent, but some level of competition as well? And I think that's now perhaps a trend that SaaS founders need to start living with, whether they're in blockchain or something else, because the world is moving in that direction. So any thoughts around that?
Yeah, so I think, and you're absolutely right. This is the trend that we have been seeing, and more so in blockchain. So in fact, if you see most of the leaders in the blockchain space, they say that they have not seen collaboration of this level in any other industry or technology. Blockchain, people want to work with each other, and people realize that end of the day, it's the growth of the entire ecosystem, which is very important to drive the larger adoption of blockchain. And that is what is happening. We are not worried about partners being competitors, because end of the day, it's a decentralized technology. Even if one cloud start putting in few services in place, as I mentioned, when we go into the enterprise space, there's a lot more than just deploying node. Like we are very strong on the monitoring side, we are very strong on the security and privacy side. So there are many other things just apart from providing a service, and that's the reason we are seeing them more as partners rather than competitors, because we are working with them closely. If they are providing one layer, we are building another layer. We are combining them together, doing joint go-to-market, and that is what we are doing with most of the partners. Even for community building, we have partnered with quite a few protocols, whether it be NIA protocol or Corium or Parity, etc. So go to market together, build community, etc. Same we are doing with cloud partners. Same we are doing with SIs and other kind of partner ecosystems.
Correct. And finally, Ravi, the success of blockchain is not determined by one organization which is deploying it, but it's really an ecosystem, right? I mean, it's about either you have consortia which are operating, or you need to have several partnerships, to really make things happen. If it's things like digital identity and so on. Therefore, there's a lot of evangelizing to be done. Number one. Number two could also be a situation where. So let me give an example. Let's say if there's a telco which launches a certain blockchain application and has a consortium, and then the competing telco in the same geography wants to do it as well. So you could have so many players doing similar things as well, right? So I mean, it's quite interesting because at the end of the day, you want people to collaborate, you want, want market penetration, you want adoption. But how do you see this blockchain space evolving as adoption starts to accelerate?
Yeah, so one is a lot of education which is going on, and in fact there has been huge commitment from some of the largest organizations in the space for continue to invest into education. Education is important to let people know what the technology is, what it can do, how it can bring in competitive advantage or some kind of value differentiators for different organizations in different industries. So a lot of education is happening, a lot of, we see there's a surge of meetups, hackathons. In fact, we being one of the leading players in India to do a lot of community building initiatives like meetups, hackathons, webinars, and so on and so forth. The idea is again, get more and more people start adopting blockchain, increase the overall pie, have more adoption in this space. Similarly, we are seeing a trend, there are a lot of consulting and a lot of organizations who are now focusing on bringing people, they are in fact creating a lot of no-code tools, and in fact we have many customers who are such players who have created platforms where people can easily tokenize their assets. So like a no-code platform where they can convert or come from Web 2 and still adopt Web 3 in a very. There's a lot of innovations happening in the UX UI space because that is one deterrent. People still are not very comfortable using non-custodial wallets, managing their private keys, etc. So a lot of like Web3 Auth and Arcana, one of our partners, their startups are coming in who are providing social login. So these are some of the initiatives which are happening. There's a clear intent, and everybody understands that it's a market where everyone needs to bring down the efforts, and that's why we are seeing a lot of collaboration happening, and everybody wants to increase the size of the market.
So finally, Ravi, do you agree that in this business you have to grow exponentially, or you will struggle? Do you agree with that?
Absolutely, I totally agree.
So I think, friends, this is a very exciting space, blockchain, where SaaS startups need to grow exponentially in the environment of innovation and so much happening and so many new players coming in. So Ravi, it was great having you on this chat. And,
thank you, Thomas.
And I'm sure Zeeve will be a company which everyone should look out for in the near future.
No, thanks, Thomas. And I would say to everyone that keep smiling, keep building.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.